Hey guys, so this is my third time trying to upload this video. This was originally supposed to be a bit of a surprise video for Halloween, but it didn't really go that way. For some reason, Warner Brothers keeps blocking it. I don't know why they're being so overly protective of a show that was cancelled after 10 episodes almost a decade ago, but yeah, they manually took down my first uploads. So I know a few thousands of you have already seen it, but I'm trying again because I really enjoyed making this video and I don't want to let it go. I had to alter some footage to avoid Warner Brothers coming for my neck a third time, so if some shots look weird out of nowhere and a big logo appears on the screen, don't yell at me. It's not my fault. Anyways, enjoy the video. I mean, if they don't take it down again. On October 22, 2013, the famous ABC Family mystery drama Pretty Little Liars, which was at the top of its popularity at the time, aired a Halloween special episode in the middle of a hiatus during its fourth season. The episode, thematically titled Grave New World, followed the show's protagonists Aria, Spencer, Hanna, and Emily as they travel to Ravenswood, a creepy town next to theirs where they try to uncover the identity of their mortal enemy A, and where they will later discover that their friend Alison DiLaurentis, who they believe to be dead for the past 3 years, is in fact alive and has been in hiding since the day she went missing. To this day, Grave New World is one of the show's biggest, most popular episodes in terms of ratings, but it was actually made for a very specific reason. You see, the episode has a secondary plotline that follows the character of Caleb Rivers as he meets a girl named Miranda while on his way to Ravenswood to find his girlfriend Hanna. After some chaotic shenanigans that leads them to team up in the town, the episode ends on a very strange sequence where Caleb and Miranda wander into a cemetery where they discover 2 graves marked with their respective names and respective pictures. Over the years, a lot of people were very confused with that storyline because the show never really continues it or addresses it, and it never seems to have any impact on the story of PLL. So what was the point? Well, what a lot of people don't know is that Grave New World was a special episode made to serve as a backdoor pilot for a spin-off of Pretty Little Liars that would directly continue the storyline of Caleb and Miranda and their strange discovery. And that spin-off is titled Ravenswood. Ravenswood premiered right after Grave New World did, on the same night of October 22, 2013. ABC Family was very hopeful about its success because it was a spin-off of the most popular show they had ever produced at the time, and the fan base was famously very strong. However, despite having all of the odds in their favor, Ravenswood ended up being nothing short of a complete failure, a total disaster. It crashed and burned in every way imaginable, and after one shortened season of 10 episodes, the show was silently cancelled by the network due to disastrous ratings. But that's really understating how embarrassing this turned out to be for ABC Family. To put in perspective how bad the situation was, Ravenswood came and went so quickly, and it tanked so hard that by the time it ended its run on February 4th, 2014, an overwhelming majority of the gigantic Pretty Little Liars audience and fan base had no idea the show even existed. To this day, a lot of fans don't know this show was a thing. But how? How did this go so wrong? How did Ravenswood fail so brutally? Well, that's what we're gonna look into, and you're quickly going to realize that it's not difficult to understand why this show tanked that hard. Because contrary to Pretty Little Liars, Ravenswood was not a murder mystery with an overabundance of romantic storylines thrown in the middle. No, Ravenswood is a supernatural horror show. Is that okay with you? Because I just have to point out how ridiculous that is. As stupid as Pretty Little Liars was, there was always some sense of realism ingrained into it. It was thin, sure, but it was there. So the idea of making a spin-off where one of the characters goes off to a new town to fight ghosts and cast spells and shit is just so funny to me. And I thought it would be fun for Halloween to take a look back at what I consider to be the worst horror show ever made. And not only that, but I can also say with a lot of conviction that Ravenswood is one of the worst TV shows I've ever seen, period. It is absolutely atrocious, and while I'm not surprised that it was cancelled, I am surprised it got greenlit in the first place. This show was a terrible idea from the get-go, and it should have never been allowed to exist. You'll see. Or maybe you won't. Ooh, I'm sorry. So like I described a bit earlier, Ravenswood is the spooky story of Caleb Rivers, who decides to take a little vacation in the mystery town of Ravenswood after discovering a tombstone of himself with a girl named Miranda. That's her. The girl with the Karen haircut. Realizing that something about this creepy town doesn't quite add up, Caleb and Miranda decide to join forces to investigate and find out what's going on. But they soon come to face the fact that Ravenswood might be haunted by things beyond our realm. I know this sounds really vague, and it is, but that's because that's how vague the story of the show is in general. And by that I mean, it's never made clear what the main mystery of Ravenswood is supposed to be. The premise is just weirdly convoluted, and it doesn't have a specific target. For example, Pretty Little Liars is simple in concept. We know what we're looking for. We want to find out the identity of A. That's it. A is the end game. It's the main mystery. But Ravenswood doesn't really have that. We don't actually know what we're looking for. There's a bunch of mysterious, spooky shit happening, but we don't have a target. We don't have an end game in sight, so the story feels really unfocused and messy, and that's from the very start. And I'm not kidding. Ravenswood begins, and from the jump, literally from the very first second, it's already being an absolute mess.
My name is Caleb Rivers. Last night I got on a bus to Ravenswood, thinking I was going there to help my girlfriend Hanna. She's the one who asked me to stay and take care of Miranda. I just met Miranda earlier that night, but we had an immediate connection.
Yes, this new show starts with the narrated recap of things that happened in another show, and that set up the entire story we're about to follow. And they do it real fast too. If you blink, you'll miss it. It's like they started the show with the previously on Ravenswood narration, and then they just throw you in the middle of the action. You're immediately thrown in, and you just have to follow. Ravenswood begins its very first episode by making you feel like you missed an episode, and it does not feel like you are in the beginning of the story.
I don't scare easily. Not when I need answers about a family I've never known.
Last night, I found a tombstone in that cemetery with my name and face on it.
The pilot is just so lazy in every aspect of its narrative, and I'm not surprised because the episode was written by Marlene King herself, but even by her standards, this is surprisingly mediocre. The other thing that kind of bugs me about Ravenswood is the choice of character for the spin-off. Caleb is a secondary character in Pretty Little Liars. Now, normally that would make sense, but Caleb in PLL is a love interest to Hanna. Literally, his entire character is just Hanna's boyfriend, also can hack things. But that's kind of it. He's never really fleshed out. We never really find out anything of substance about him. So trying to convince people they should watch an entirely new show about him was a weird move, to say the least. Now, I feel like it's important to point out that before rewatching it for this video, I had not seen this show since it aired back in 2013. I'm probably the only person on this planet who actually watched the whole thing back then. I barely remembered anything about it, but I am so glad that I rewatched it, because I have not laughed this hard in a very long time. Ravenswood is so funny. And the reason why it's so funny is that Ravenswood is not trying to be funny. This show is dead serious, and it makes the whole thing absolutely hilarious. When I tell you that nothing about this show works, I need you to know that I mean that. The writing is awful. The acting is awful. The directing is incredibly bland. Even the editing is unnecessarily jarring. And more than anything else, and probably the thing that sticks out the most, this horror series is not scary at all. I'm serious. Ravenswood tries so hard to be spooky, and it fails at it miserably all the time, and it's the funniest thing to watch. The writers and directors have no idea how to build tension, which is kind of crucial in horror, so the only spooky aspect of the show is literally just random jump scares that come out of nowhere and have 0 point in the scene. Now, we all know jump scares are cheap and kinda lame. Some of them can be good if done right, but here I love them because they're so bad and so not scary that it's funny. I'll give you an example. Let me show you Ravenswood's attempt at a jump scare. Buckle up, this is an experience. Who edited this? There was 8 cuts in a 5-second action. Who edited this? It shouldn't be legal. Every scene in this show is just so bad that it just kills me of laughter. You have no idea how much I laughed during this show. Look at this.
Well done, my good and faithful servant.
I can't. I can't fucking do this. Oh, and I forgot to tell you the funniest thing about this show. You know Miranda, the Karen haircut girl? Yeah, she dies at the end of the first episode. She's dead as fuck. She has a vision of a ghost while in a car with Caleb and 3 other characters, and it causes her to panic, which results in an accident that kills her. And by the way, that car crash is absolutely hilarious to watch.
Look out!
Okay, seriously, how many cuts can you have to convey one action? I counted this one too. There was a total of 14 cuts in 9 seconds. Who edited this? But that's not the funny part. The funny part is that Miranda dies in episode 1, but she's there for the rest of the show as a ghost. I'm not kidding. The whole show, she's a ghost, and she's just chilling with Caleb while he tries to figure things out. And it is hysterical. Let me explain. If you haven't seen Ravenswood, you probably don't know that, but the finale actually features Hanna Marin. Ashley Benson reprised her role as a guest star for the show. She shows up from Rosewood during the events of PLL Season 4 to try and make sense of what's happening with Caleb in Ravenswood. And it's not just a glorified cameo, she's there for the whole episode. She has a full storyline to herself. She even meets with Miss Grunwald and they talk about Allison. But there is a sequence that is just absolutely hilarious where Caleb tries to convince Hanna, the Hanna from Pretty Little Liars, that he broke up with her because he's falling in love with the ghost of a girl, and the entire time Miranda is just hanging out in the room talking to Caleb, but Hanna cannot see her or hear her because she's a ghost.
So why did you say that she needed you?
Tell her.
Miranda is dead, but she's not gone.
And that's not all, because then, I shit you not, there is a scene where Hanna attempts to talk to the spirit of Miranda alone in a room, and they have an indirect conversation during which Miranda answers Hanna's questions, and they talk about their feelings for Caleb. I am not kidding. Hanna Marin has a conversation with a ghost.
The things he was saying, I was sure that he was in love with you.
Really? What'd he say?
He was talking about how you needed him and how he'd made promises.
Oh, and if that's not enough already, Hanna also gets haunted by a poltergeist later in that episode, so yeah, that happened. Ravenswood is a fever dream. I cannot believe this show actually exists. I can't believe it's real. Everything about it is just so terrible. Every decision made with this show is so foul. I genuinely have no idea how they got this project past pre-production. The fact that they actually shot this is beyond me. Look at this. Look at this shit. This was on TV! And again, I mentioned it quickly earlier, but I just have to re-mention how hilarious the acting is in this show. The only one I'm gonna give a pass to, sort of, is Tyler Blackburn, who plays Caleb. He's fine. This dude has a natural charisma that gives Caleb a certain swagger, so he's the only one who isn't completely bland. But all of the others are just so bad, and they are a huge reason of why this show doesn't work. Ravenswood is a show where a lot of really intense things happen that are very overwhelming to the characters, but it never works because these actors are all completely incapable of conveying any emotion. And it's really funny. Let me give you an example. Here's this scene from the first episode. Miranda is meeting her estranged uncle for the first time since she was like 3 years old. You see, Miranda's parents died when she was just a toddler, and that uncle is the only family she has left. But after their funeral, he just abandoned her to be adopted by strangers. This scene is their first face-to-face since that funeral, and Miranda confronts her uncle about him abandoning her as a child. This is supposed to be a very emotional scene with a lot of emotional baggage for both of these characters, and this confrontation should be heated and moving, but the actors are just so bad that I was laughing the whole time.
Why did you do that?
There was no way I could explain it to you then.
No, you were wrong.
I realized that when I saw you this morning. But the damage is done. You should go back to your foster family.
Are you guys still awake? Did you fall asleep? This is the entire show. Everyone acts completely wooden the entire time. It never ends. The characters are boring as shit, which is not surprising. I mean, after all, we are talking about a show made by Marlene King. We never learn anything of substance about any of them. They have zero development, and most of their scenes is just the most excruciatingly dull expositional dialogue as they walk around endlessly. And the acting is so bland, it's a real challenge not to fall asleep watching this show.
Livy, are you not going tonight because of your dad? You know he'd want you there, and Luke too. I know it won't be the same, but the police are gonna figure this out, and in the meantime—
Oh my fucking god. Ravenswood is genuinely one of the most boring shows I have ever seen. This show is such a snooze fest. You know what? I just want to give you a quick compilation of the bad acting and bad writing in this show, just so you understand what we're dealing with here. So have fun, because this is what I had to sit through for 10 hours.
What happens if she loses tonight? Think she'll go after the judges with a knife? You know what they say? Like mother, like daughter.
I keep thinking about being in the water, not knowing which way was up.
We're okay.
Not all of us.
I won't let you do this to her. You shopkeeper. You clerk, you janitor of souls. You do not have a say in this.
Leave her alone! He's helping her.
He needs her alive to take the rest of you.
How did this happen?
Their connection was stronger than I thought. he's gonna be very unhappy.
There has always been a Collins taking orders, snipping hair, keeping those souls in escrow for somebody.
My family has kept this town safe for 100 years.
By killing kids every time somebody goes to war?
No Collins has ever harmed a soul.
Is that all you care about? Where he is on the boyfriend pyramid?
Don't be selfish, Livy. I got you that crown. Let me enjoy some of the spoils.
We've got a date.
You're finished, Dylan.
You're the ones who are finished.
What are you gonna do to me? Same thing you did to the mayor?
Was that enough? Did you guys have enough? You understand what I had to sit through now? And as you would expect, none of it is helped by the fact that the mystery of this show is completely stupid, and most of the characters are pointless. The thing with Marlene King is that she really likes it when her characters seem like they're keeping secrets. Like, you know, when you can tell somebody is hiding something. But the issue is that she never knows what those secrets actually are. She just likes mysterious characters. So she makes everyone act suspicious and mysterious constantly, but for no reason. A lot of the dialogue in this show is just person A asking questions to person B, but person B refuses to answer the question or answers with a cryptic line that means nothing because mystery. But it never leads anywhere. It never does anything. Everyone is mysterious just because. The best example of that is probably Miss Grunwald. Now, if you've seen Pretty Little Liars, you are familiar with this character. She's appeared in the show and she had a pivotal reveal in it. She's the woman who dug Allison out of her grave when she was buried alive by her mother on the night she went missing. Miss Grunwald, in concept, could be a very interesting character. She's a wise old lady who seems to know a lot more than she says, and it's very clear that she keeps a lot of secrets. There were so many ways for Marlene and the writers to use her for the mysteries of Ravenswood, but unfortunately, everything about Miss Grunwald ends up being very surface level. Everything about her essentially boils down to cryptic dialogue 101. The only function this character has is to be asked questions and to answer those questions with some enigmatic sentence that is designed to sound vague and that ultimately doesn't really mean anything. All just because Marlene thinks that makes the show more mysterious. That's literally 95% of her presence in the show.
He says he talks to her.
That can be a great comfort.
And she talks back to him.
The veil is thinner here.
Exactly what is it you do here?
Exactly. I keep things in order. Help when help's required.
And it goes like that for the entire show. Just like Pretty Little Liars, Ravenswood is a show that is designed first and foremost to waste your time. And by the end of the season, you realize that nothing really happened. The show establishes a story in the pilot, and that story doesn't move forward for all 10 episodes. All of the mysteries set up in the pilot are left unresolved. We don't have basic clues to get us one step closer to the answer. It's all just floating in the plot. For example, why was there another Caleb Rivers that looked exactly like Caleb 100 years ago? I get that he was his ancestor, but why are they like twins? And why is it the same for Miranda? Well, doesn't matter. Never explained. Whenever Caleb introduces himself to someone in Ravenswood, they seem to be surprised to find out his last name is Rivers. Everyone has a strange reaction to it. Why? What does that mean? Well, we never really find out. The show kind of forgets about that after the first episode, and then nobody cares that he's a Rivers. Someone or something tried to drown Caleb in his bath during the pilot. Who was it? Why did that person or thing try to kill Caleb? Well, it doesn't matter. The show never addresses it again. It just kind of happens, and then the show moves on, and nobody ever brings it up. Who was the ghost that caused the car accident that kills Miranda in the pilot? Yeah, you guessed it. We don't know, because the show never mentions it again. Doesn't matter. Never explained. None of it matters. Caleb's investigation has literally no point throughout the entire season. He doesn't find out anything important, we never get an information that furthers the plot, and since the mystery doesn't have an endgame, even when things happen, it's not getting us closer to anything. So it still doesn't matter, because we don't know what's supposed to matter. In typical Marlene King fashion, every episode that isn't the premiere or the finale is a completely useless waste of time where nothing of substance actually happens. This show sets up a bunch of enigmas for the characters to investigate and solve, then the whole season is just a random compilation of mediocre jump scares, and then the season ends. The story hasn't progressed at all, and the conclusion is that nobody knows what is happening in Ravenswood anyway, so you watch all of this for nothing. These 10 episodes could have easily been condensed in a 90-minute movie. It still would have been terrible, but my point is, it didn't need to be this long. Even the characters don't have much to do through 10 episodes, which sucks because they're already pretty boring on their own, so if they have nothing to do, it's even worse. Caleb is alright, but like, he is a very boring character. He has no layers, he's just kind of cool guy with long hair 101. Miranda is dead the entire time, so who gives a shit? There's this girl, Remy. Her whole thing is that she sleepwalks and there's some sort of supernatural element to it. She can see certain things in her dreams, but like it can make her dangerous when she's sleepwalking, and her mom used to be the same. This never matters, by the way. It's just a weird quirk she has. There's this guy, I don't even remember his name, but he's completely useless. His whole character is being grumpy. Oh, and there's also his twin sister, this girl, who is played by easily the worst actress in the entire show. I hate singling her out, but it's true. It kind of gave me some entertainment value though, because every scene she's in is hilarious to watch.
Since Dad died, you haven't just pushed other people away. You've got me out too. Look, I get why you're sad. Why are you so damn mad?
I looked up the actress on IMDb, and she has spent the last 5 years exclusively acting in Christmas romantic comedies. I'm not kidding, she's essentially spent the last 5 years doing the same movie over and over again. She was in A Royal Winter, The Christmas Cottage, Forever in My Heart, Christmas at the Palace, Picture a Perfect Christmas, Bad Date Chronicles, and of course the legendary smash hit from last year, Chateau Christmas.
Merritt Patterson, Luke McFarlane. Chateau Christmas.
They sound like movies for white girls who say shit like this.
People who don't have mental illness are not interesting.
What the fuck did you just say? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, these characters are all teenagers. They look like they're 29, but they're all 16. Yeah, this guy is 16, which is somehow the most unbelievable thing to be featured in a show about ghosts and resurrections. You can never tell from the show that they're teenagers. They don't look like teenagers, they don't act like teenagers. They never even go to school, and it's like November when the show takes place. There's also a villain in the show that shows up out of nowhere towards the end. His name is Abaddon. He kinda sucks. We don't really know who he is or what he wants. Like, his goal is never made clear. He's not very scary, but he's here, and he has superpowers, and he has evil villain lines.
I have the authority. Death for you, Miranda. It need not be permanent.
I just want you to remember that while this is happening, Aria, Spencer, Hannah, and Emily are 2 hours away in Rosewood trying to figure out who is constantly texting them anonymously. I'm just saying, their problems just don't seem that serious in comparison. And the little cherry on top is the final scene of the show, which is just hilarious because it makes no sense. Basically, there's a second Caleb Rivers from another time, and his spirit is freed in the present or something. I don't know, it's not clear. And he shows up looking completely ridiculous, and he reunites with the spirit of Miranda. And we cut to a flashback of them being in love 100 years ago, but it's the Miranda from now who has different memories, but she can remember the memories of her ancestor, the other Miranda from the different time period. And I just what kind of Vampire Diaries ass twist is this? I don't even know if I should be surprised, because I have no idea what it means. Is the Miranda from the 1900s the same person as the Miranda now? What does that do? It's such a terrible cliffhanger, because we can't tell what's happening. How did you expect people to be excited for season 2? And that's the biggest problem with the show, I think. Ravenswood fails as a horror story because there's no clear mythology attached to it. There's no particular lore to get attached to. There's no world building. It's just horror, scary things, but none of it makes sense. If I can give the show one compliment, and trust me, I'm making an effort here, it would be that they actually succeed at making Ravenswood look like a creepy town you don't necessarily want to hang out in. It has a visual Tim Burton kind of vibe that's sort of immersive. It's weird, it's gray, it's spooky-ish, but that's really it. That's the only thing the show does kind of right. The town looks creepy, kind of. That's it. Anyways, this video is all over the place. I'm sorry. But I mean, really? You gotta understand me here. This show feels like a Saturday Night Live skit of what a Marlene King horror show would be like. I just cannot believe that Hollywood executives sat down in a room and looked at this show and were like, yeah, this is the move. We're gonna do this. And then they threw millions of dollars at the project to get it made. It just blows my mind. The amount of blind trust ABC Family had in Marlene King during the height of popularity of Pretty Little Liars at the time is staggering. Like, they would have let her do anything. They really believed she could do no wrong. And then they went on to cancel her next 3 shows. So anyways, if you don't like getting scared, but you still want to watch something kind of spooky for Halloween, I highly recommend getting with your friends and binging all 10 episodes of Ravenswood in one go. I assure you, you will be laughing hysterically the entire time. You will cringe a lot, but you will laugh more. It is truly the worst horror TV show ever made. It is so bad, and every time it tries to be scary, it is just peak comedy. Accidental comedy, but comedy still. And it's only made funnier by the fact that this show is actually canon to the Pretty Little Liars timeline. Because when Caleb returns to PLL in season 5, because Ravenswood was cancelled, so they just put Caleb back in PLL, he gets scenes where he talks about the ghosts with Hanna and like Toby, and it's just thrown in there in the middle of the plot.
I've been there. And where? Ravenswood. You were a tourist, man. I lived there.
And maybe you brought some of it back with you.
Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go watch Teen Wolf now. I'll see you on the other side. Happy Halloween. Don't eat too many Kit Kats.